Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is Giving Tuesday, and it is a monumental day for everyone who has been using their funds to do Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Today is a day of philanthropy. Today is a day of giving of your time, of your talent, and for some of you today, of your treasure. And so we're so excited to have you join us from tip to tip of our country and countries around the world. I want to do special shout outs to some of our early birds because early birds get the worm. On this coast, a special shout out to Calvin, Freedom Writer Extraordinaire. And on the other side of the country, to Laura O'Connell in Long Island. So, welcome from tip to tip of our country, and our hope for some of you as you are joining us or are joining us from other states, cities, countries, continents around the globe. Let me tell you what we're about to do. Not once, twice, but 3 times today. We're going to have a live where we're having guests. Throughout the day, I'm going to have original Freedom Writers come in and be my co-host. And what we're going to be doing is we have curated some of our fabulous podcasts of this season solely spotlighting Freedom Writers. So we're taking the best 2 or 3 minutes of some of our favorite podcasts throughout the day. So different guests, different podcasts. And so if you have tons of time on your hand, or you are just a Freedom Writer aficionado, you can watch all day because every single live will be different. We have different podcasts, we have different guests, and hopefully different folks in the chat room to say hello to all of you. So my hope is that you are going to sit down, get a nice cup of coffee. As we do when we do lives, the chat room is probably the most fun. I'm not fast enough to speak and be in the chat room simultaneously, but you guys can break the internet if you so choose. You guys can be chatty Cathy's, say hello, share the love. I just saw that somebody on our screen popped up from Germany. So welcome from Germany. And I think we have an entire class with our Freedom Writer teacher extraordinaire, Megan Abruzzo. Her entire class is watching. So I want to do a special shout out to the entire class in Long Island. We've been in your classroom. In fact, the day that we were in your classroom a couple years ago was the day they did the bad guy drill. And so I got to cower in the closet with your amazing teacher and all of you students. It was quite a moment to be in your classroom as we were doing that drill. But I love that. Oh, we also have Jill and Amnon from Israel. So from tip to tip, I'm so thrilled that people are going to be joining us, saying hello. My plea also is that some of you will feel inspired by the fact that it is the season of giving and you will donate to our amazing cause. A few days ago, we were knocked out that Erin Anderson, who represents the Gary Anderson Foundation, did a matching donation up to $25,000. So that means every single dollar that is donated today will be matched up to $25,000 today, which is unbelievable. It was one of those moments where the happy dance ensued. There were tears, there were high fives. So every single dollar today will be matched by Erin Anderson and the fine folks at the Gary Anderson Foundation. So I want to dive in and tell you what we've got planned. A few years ago, much to my chagrin and my imposter complex, the Freedom Writers suggested that we create a podcast. And I think I am the liability on said podcast. I'm way too nosy. I'm way too annoying. And so what I often do is over anticipate what would the audience want to know. And for some of you folks who are a little bit older, you might remember Barbara Walters. Barbara Walters was an esteemed journalist for the better part of forever. And Barbara Walters would always make her class or her subjects or her interviewees cry. That's kind of what I do. And so as you're watching today, the clips that we've curated, every single one of these clips are going to make you feel something. If you are too cool for school or too school for cool, you might get a lump in your throat. You might be fighting back a tear or two, but every one of these clips comes from a place of realness and rawness. And you might find yourself needing a tissue, a hanky, a sleeve, a shoulder to cry. And these are just unbelievably moving and unbelievably beautiful. So my hope is that as you're watching, if you're with someone, I know there's several folks that are watching with their entire class. Vanessa, who is a Freedom Writer teacher extraordinaire, she's got her entire class watching along with Mr. Moore, and there's 32 students in that class. My hope is if you're watching and you feel and deeply so, have a courageous conversation with somebody afterwards, and lean in. We've got several of these throughout the day. So if you like what you see, come back and come back often. So without further ado, for each of these lives, I have put out the bat signal and asked Freedom Writers to show up. And guess what? They are going to show up. And our first one was here before the first rooster began to crow. And that is Narada. So I'm going to ask Narada to pop on my screen magically. Poof, there he is. And before we dive into our first clip, which is actually your clip, Narada, there is a shiny object that is distracting me that is directly behind you. This is the first time Narada has seen it in the office. What is said shiny object behind you, Narada?
Oh, you're not talking about this Emmy statue, are you?
I sort of kind of am.
Oh yeah.
It may or may not reflect the ink on your arm. So can I see the shiny object and the ink
Oh
on your
yes.
arm?
So
Let me see the object and
okay.
can
Object,
object?
Emmy statue,
Okay.
and then I think we can. I did put on
Oh.
lotion today. Please excuse the if we can.
Look at that. For
No,
those of you
can't.
that look at him, he's flexing. The gun show is about to happen with the
See
flex.
that if you look down there, that's an Emmy award on the skin right there.
I
So
love that. And I love that you had no tattoos and then we got an Emmy Award and now you have almost a sleeve.
I like
Um,
went
okay,
Hollywood on
but
you
we
guys.
set that up for Narada to see. For those of you that are not aware, we had a documentary that we worked on for decades. For all of you teachers that believe that writing is a process, so was making a documentary. We started recording with my clunky camcorder back in the day, back in room 203. And
Mhm.
for decades, we've been recording field trips and moments of this Freedom Writer journey that we are now in our 30th year, which if you do your math, you don't have enough fingers and toes to even count how many years this has been a thing. But during the pandemic, our Emmy was given to us for our documentary. And so we recently got an Emmy to put in our office, and it's very exciting. So this is the first time that Narada has actually seen said Emmy in the office. So he might get distracted. If I had a very thick gold chain, he could flav it up. And instead of a big fancy clock, he could just wear that Emmy around his neck for the next hour. So if we could find a big fat gold chain, we might just have you wear it, Narado. But the chat room was blowing up, and what I want to do is have you help me curate these amazing moments in podcast. We've got 4 for this hour. We're going to be looking at my favorite moment of my interview with you first. We're going to be looking at Carlos, sweet Carlos, who might even jump on the chat and say hello to all you fabulous folks. Shanette, and we're going to end with sweet Subu, Sue Ellen herself. And with each of these clips, what I'd love to do is I'd love to kind of build them up. And then hopefully, Narada, you're going to be the audience, helping me bring them to life. These are your brothers and sisters from other mothers and misters. And for 30 years, these amazing folks have been in your life, in your orbit, in celebrations and the best of times. But what I have loved of you guys have really been there for each other in the toughest of times. Family is what we have made. Family is what you guys have chosen. And so I want to set the scene for our first clip, which is you. And what I love is you and I, along with your fellow freedom writers, I think there was 8 or 9 of us on this particular trip. We were in upstate New York, a perfect fall day. We were visiting schools and speaking actually at a professional hockey arena. I think you spoke to several thousand students from upstate New York in a single day. It was magic. And at the end of that week, the day before you were going to fly home, we got in my hotel room and I decided to interview you because I wanted to feel really raw. You know, we'd been together for that entire week and we were finishing each other's sentences and crossing each other's T's and dotting each other's I's. So my hope was in that transparency that we could have a really tender talk about young Narada. And in that hour conversation, I think you and I shed a lot of tears. And I think you and I really connected with the audience that would soon listen. And you know what's amazing with podcast is it's often like a solitary experiment. You put your earbuds on and you walk, you drive, you study. But I love that we taped your particular interview. And then that set up a trend for the rest of the year. We thought, let's tape every freedom writer for us. So we can watch the emotion. I think watching it to me is almost more beautiful than just listening. And what we found is a lot of the teachers around the world are now using these podcasts as teaching tools to reach their students. So if you are a teacher on the call, I know that Roger is joining us as well from Schenectady. Hello, and his entire class. That if you are an educator and you want to use these podcasts, please feel free to use them, download them. They are free, they're accessible. We have transcripts. We also have the visual recordings as well. But they're a great way as caring adults to get to know your students a little more. So in this hotel room in Utica, New York, I asked Narada about young Narada. And what you did, Narada, was talk about a moment in time that led to Diary 24 in the Freedom Writer's Diary, where you very candidly wrote about being homeless. And a lot of people, when they pick up the Freedom Writer's Diary, they don't know the backstory. They don't know the pre. They might not even know the post, but they're definitely captivated in the moment. So what I want to do is show this incredibly endearing scene. And on the other side of this video, I would love for you to tell me what it was like to expose that part of your history that is not in the book, that had never been told before publicly, and what that is like to have out in the world. So this is Narada bearing his soul so that each and every one of us could bear witness.
It was bad for me because we're moving again. And this whole time I've been searching for a home. Even before the eviction, I was searching for a place to belong, a place to fit in. Every place that I thought was home got taken away from me. So, to be in Long Beach, it was like, okay, here we go again. But I started to realize, what can I control? What can't I control? So people don't notice I was such a stranger in Long Beach when I moved, because we moved in my 8th grade year of junior high to Long Beach. I got pissed off and said, no, I want to graduate with my friends because this is home. You're taking home again away from me. So, every morning I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and like I said, my mom let me be independent, taught me how to ride buses and all that. Uh, the city of LA introduces the Blue Line train station. Train takes you straight to LA from Long Beach. So every morning at 5 o'clock, I get up. I'm out the door at 6 o'clock. I'm on the very first stop on that train station to the very last stop. It took me an hour to get to school. And then
You were 13.
I was 13. So I caught a bus. I got off the train at the last station, 7th and Metro. Caught the 15, I think, that let me off at least like a couple blocks away from my school. And I did that every day until I graduated from 8th grade because I wanted to be with my friends. Because I got tired of my home getting taken away, you know? So what can I control? What can I control? What can I control in these situations? I couldn't control anything else. Couldn't say, Mom, couldn't do this.
Mm. Wow. What can I control? What can I control? It's heavy. And before you dive into explaining that, Narada, what I love is there's so many teachers who joined us today that have their entire class. So if you are one of those educators and your class is here, let us know. A shout out to Roger Gabori in Schenectady, whose class is here, and Megan Abruzzo, who is in Long Island. Manny Mendola, Manuel, in Clovis, his entire class is here as well. Mrs. Smith's class is here. I think we even got a photo of Mrs. Oh, look at Mrs. Smith's class. We see you and we're waving to you. There's a photo of them. So if you are joining us, I think Vanessa's class is here, Mrs. Moore's class. So if you can send us a photo of your class, know, Narada, that you're kind of a co-teacher today to all these students who probably feel the same way as you did. What can I control? And when you're a kid, you were in middle school, prior to walking to room 203, that powerlessness was palpable. So talk about what that moment was like to reveal something that you had pushed down and pushed away.
It was, I look back at it now, it was a big moment because when you go through hardships in your house, anywhere, or in life, at work, or whatever, doesn't matter, you're not broadcasting your stuff out there like that. So that causes a lot of things of what's going on you keep inside and you keep it down. And when you keep traumatic situations down, it affects you. It affects who you are, it affects how you operate, how you function, how you learn, how you listen. It does all these things. So for me to have these heavy things on me, uh, to be so young and not really having somebody I can just broadcast it out to, or even if I brought it up to my mom, or even if I brought it up to a sibling and stuff, it still wasn't something that was going to help fix the problem right then and there. So I think as we all do, we learn to kind of roll with the punches. And I had to roll with the punches. Anything that was going on, I had to roll with it because I couldn't control it. I didn't learn until my 40s now. You can only control what you can control, really. And just back then, it's like you wish you can get $1 million, or you wish this would happen, and those things are not going to happen for you. You kind of have to play the cards that you're dealt in the situation and control what you can control, like as best as you can. So
We put out the bat signal today to have you join us. I remember another really endearing moment. I was in San Bernardino at a homeless shelter, and I was speaking with moms. And there was a young boy who had just turned 14, who could have been your doppelganger, a spitting image of 14-year-old Narada. And in that moment of actually reading your story in this very safe, sacred space for these moms that were feeling really ashamed and nervous, I decided to call you, and it wasn't planned. It was very organic. And thank God you answered. And I was able to pass the phone to this boy. What was it like being able to speak to that boy then and try to lift him up in the way that you lift up so many young people whenever we are in classrooms or schools?
It was, I think that was the day that I learned that my story was important. And it wasn't just about putting your pain out there for others to see or to be a part of the collective of what was in the diary. I think I really realized the importance of, you put this story out there for a reason, and here's the reason. Here is a mom in a homeless shelter where her 14-year-old son, and to have that opportunity to talk to the 14-year-old as, hey, I've already been through what you've been through, and I'm on the other side of it. You're just in the dark part. And when we go back to control what you can control, what I told him was, encourage your mom. She thinks that you think that she's the bottom of the shoe, and she's embarrassed and she's sad, and she doesn't know what her own child thinks of her, just the worst. And he says, I don't think of her like that. I don't think that's the case. I said, you show that to her. You keep encouraging her,
Mm,
because that's what I had to do with my mom. It was the two of us in survival mode, and we had to make it happen. Whatever the cards were throwing at us, okay, the situation has happened. The sheriff has locked the door. The stuff is in the house. We can't get it. There was nowhere else pretty much to go, that we can call our own. Thank God we had that room, at the stranger's house, and all those things. Okay, now what are we going to do? We had to make the best of that. We had to control what we could control at the time. So, what a blessing to be in that seat, on the other side, and to talk to, I felt like I was talking to myself at 14. And I didn't have nobody to talk to about what was going on at that time. So, and I got to talk to the mom and encourage her as well, to encourage both of them. I pray wherever they're at in the world that it helped, and it got them through, but that's when I understood what this story is and what it meant to people.
mm. I'm going to ask you to say hello to a special class in Adelanto. It's Vanessa Kay's students. They are not allowed to post pictures,
Okay.
but she said that every time we do a shout out, her students sit up a little taller and are really excited. So
I
since
need
you have
y'all to
been,
sit up, stand up, be proud. Hi guys, how you doing? Thank you for being here this morning.
I love that. I also wanted to say thank you to a dear donor. Jackie Wiggins just donated $250. So
Jackie.
in honor of Giving Tuesday, we did have an incredible donor donate money that every dollar today matched will be dollar for dollar. So if you are inspired and you want to donate to help Narada go to schools like Schenectady, go to schools like Adelanto, go to Long Island, for all of you teachers. Our hope is that we can send Freedom Writers, every time the bat signal goes out, we can put them on a screen just like Narada's today, and put them in your classroom, or perfectly have them stand in your class live and in Technicolor. So, Narada, you have traveled a lot with our next little podcast clip, and that is Carlos. And all the Freedom Writer teachers know Carlos. Carlos is big and he's bold. And on his interview, he, like yourself, was really tender. And the theme of this hour, we're looking at the resiliency of you as young folk who didn't have control over some of the things that happened to you with your parents and in your home, which I hope is a theme that the kids that are watching could get inspiration, that you guys have all risen above. All four of the clips that we're going to show are about things that happened to you in elementary school, middle school, and high school that was out of your control. So this next scene is Carlos, and Carlos was talking about the first time that he met his mom. And For those of you that know Carlos, he calls me Mama G. I spoke to him this morning, so I hope that he can join the chat. But when I met Carlos, I did not realize that he was abandoned at 3 months old. And for a lot of you freedom writers who have faced abandonment issues, it doesn't heal overnight. And as big and tough as Carlos is, he's also probably the most sensitive of, when you don't return that call, when you don't text, when you don't show up at our favorite Italian joint and have dinner with him. So you and Carlos were traveling buddies when we went across the world to the Middle East, when we traveled throughout Israel and the West Bank, meeting with incredible educators on their own soil. And you saw that tender side of Carlos every time he would bring up his past. So what I want to do is I want to show you this clip, and I want you to talk about your brother, Carlos. I want you to talk about your roommate, Carlos. I want you to talk about your friend, Carlos, and what that has meant to him meeting his biological mom as an adult, and how hard that was, but always knowing that the Freedom Writers were a safe space for him to land. So let's check out Carlos, and I'd love for you to comment on his 2 minutes.
Big bro.
I don't want him. That must go to the core of who you are.
This is why I don't like talking about this because it's still.
It's still fresh.
Remember, I told you, Miss G, was I an ugly baby when I was born? And you said, no, why? Well, why else would my mom left me? And she didn't leave her other kids, and she left me. And even though I was a good kid, I just don't understand why my family would treat me the way they would treat me. I would hear them saying, "Oh, he looks like his mom," and they didn't like my mom. And I would get treated like shit, part of me because I looked like my mom. They knew now that I'm a dad and my daughters were growing up. When they were 11 years old, I was like, man, I was that age when my grandma passed away. How 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 would they treat me at 11 years old? They would treat a little kid like that because now I know that they weren't good people. Even though now that I still talk to some of them, I don't hold grudges against them. But I really believe in karma and paying everything in life. And that's why I say, you know what? That's why I put up what I had to put up with my marriage because I didn't want my daughters going through that or somebody else mistreating them. And that's why I had to put up with what I had to for them because I didn't want them going through for what I went through.
Mm. Whew. I deliberately did not watch these clips before you and I sat down because I knew they would tug at my heartstrings, and that just slayed me. It's hard to see someone crying when you're listening to a podcast. You don't see the gestures of him like catching his breath and like reaching for those huge paper towels. I was trying to like sneak him some soft tissue, but boy was that hard to watch. So you've been in rooms with him speaking to youth when he's had those moments. What is that like as someone who looks at Carlos like a brother when he's recounting those really tough times as a kid?
That's not looking like him as a brother. That's my brother. That's big bro. That first and foremost, I give him that respect, and we give each other that respect. And yeah, we've been to the other side of the globe. We've had our adventures and things like that and stuff. But when we get down and we get serious and we have to share our stories, like everybody just got that piece there. It's like, you just feel for him. You understand who he is today because of his past. And when he says things like, I went through what I went through so my daughters wouldn't have to go through what I did, that's another form of controlling what he could control. Regardless of the pain and everything that he did it for his family. But that's who Carlos is. That speaks to, that's really who he is. The things that I've seen him do over the years and help, um, it's just, that's his heart. He does it from the heart. He does everything from the heart. He doesn't do it for notoriety. He doesn't do it to show off and this, that, and the third. Like, man, like Carlos is a heart-based person, and it's beautiful because all it does is inspire me and inspire us, and I can inspire my kids to do the same thing and stuff. It's infectious.
Absolutely.
His love is so infectious, and it's great to have him as a big bro for sure.
Speaking of a big broke, Sue Ellen just wrote, "Oh, Carlos, sending you love." That's kind of gushy for our sweet Sue.
Oh,
And Freedom Writer Julie Hurst from Snowline just said, "We love you, Carlos." Carlos is, as you know, Narada, also the most fiscally generous of all the freedom. Like, he's a baller.
yeah.
Sadly, Jessica Martinez, who will be featured later this afternoon, Jessica lost her stepmother in a really tragic car accident where her father was hospitalized, her little sister was hospitalized. Carlos, in a nanosecond, donated for the funeral. Two of our beloved girls, Tanya and Kanya, have recently been diagnosed with cancer. And Carlos didn't even go on the GoFundMe page that we created. He just went directly to Kanya with a wad of $100 bills and said,
That's my
how much
bro,
do you need?
big bro. That's why he's big
He's
bro.
big bro.
Just
Yeah.
boom, like
He,
that from the
he's a
heart,
baller.
from the heart.
From the
That's him.
and he doesn't want notoriety. He doesn't want he does it anonymously. I just blew his cover. But I have loved when I had a problem. If you remember uh, a year ago when someone broke into my garage and made it into a Shangri-La, a little crackhead. And Sue Ellen called the police, and I called Carlos and Narada. And Carlos and Narada showed up to my house before said police. I love that my two boys were there to back me up. And when the police officer said, "Who are these people?" and I said, "These are my children." They looked at me like I had a very robust and very colorful family, because I think by the time the police wheeled him out on a gurney, there was maybe 20 of you. So when I said these are my kids, they thought I've been busy. I've been busy because I have 20 kids protecting me on the ready. But I love that you guys just rally. You rally for me. You rally for
you
each other.
you know who you are. Well, now if you didn't know before, after 30 years, you know who you are to us. And if you come for the queen bees will sting you.
Oof.
Period. Don't mess with Erin Gruwell because that's our mom and we love her dearly. From a crackhead to people stealing scarves. Please beware. You are in a trouble of hurt when it comes to us. We all nice and we talk cool and everything, when we're in front of you, in front of kids and all that stuff. But if you got to ignite the what's inside or what we used to be, did you guys see the part of the Freedom Riders where they said we were knuckleheads at first? Did you see that part? That part is still there. And for Aaron Gruwell, it will come out.
I love it.
So let
Well,
that be a warning too.
you
To
guys
I'm just saying,
you guys put the A in the gangsta. Like, you were like OGs in that moment. I do want
Hey,
to say a special shout out to my dear friend Darren Levine. He's joining us from Parkland,
okay.
MSD High School in Parkland, Florida. He
Man,
and his Holocaust class. Hello, hello, hello. We were honored to be able to go to Parkland and meet with his amazing students. So I'd love to be able to go back to Florida and see them yet again. So welcome, Darren Levine and your students. Any other teachers who are joining us with your class, please send us a picture. We'll put it on the screen. Any other class that can say hello, and we could do a shout out to your kids. Anyone that's feeling inspired to donate on our Giving Tuesday drive, we would appreciate it. $1 for $1. It's being matched today from a very generous donation from the Gary Anderson Foundation. Just in time, Darren, we're going to segue to two of your sisters now, Narada. And as protective as you were of me, thank you very much. You are also equally as protective of these beautiful sisters. And in our latest book, Dear Freedom Writer, which you and all the Freedom Writers wrote letters back to young folks across the globe who in earnest wrote to you guys asking for advice in really difficult situations. And the fact that you personally stepped up to answer a spectacular letter from an incredible young woman in Louisiana. Life-changing. But what I have loved is that Shanette and her twin sister, Shanita, responded to a young girl in Kentucky who wrote about being at the marches in Louisville after Breonna Taylor lost her life and the importance of saying a name. What our listeners may not know, you were the first person to send me the police footage from Breonna Taylor's apartment, where on her screen, her television, her and her boyfriend were watching the Freedom Writers movie the moment she passed away. I mean, it was so surreal. So you were better than TMC, Narada. But that was a surreal moment of seeing police footage in her apartment after she was slain and lying on the ground. And as they're walking around this bedroom, on her screen is the movie, our movie. That was the last thing she watched prior to her death. So your sister Shanette and Shanita wrote about a battery ram. They wrote about police coming in, guns a-blazing. And they were just little girls in this horrific scene. And as you know, Shanette and Shanita always wear their sunglasses because they don't like us seeing that raw emotion. You're going to see that raw emotion in this clip because I remember that raw emotion when I was interviewing her. And how terrifying that must have been then, and why, as a society, are we still having those battery rams and those situations? So what I'd love to do is watch this scene with you. And on the backside of this video, I'd love for you to talk about not only Breonna Taylor and the importance of saying names, but all the proactive, preemptive stuff we can do so young people are not victims of horrific police brutality. So this is your sister, Shanette, talking about her childhood memory that she also wrote about in Dear Freedom Writer. Found out the similarities between you and your sister's story and a girl in Louisville, Kentucky. And you wrote about the similarities in Dear Freedom Writer. And so for those that don't know who Breonna Taylor is, I'd love for you to give them a little bit of a sample of who she is and how you and your sister are inexplicably linked to someone who had sadly a very tragic ending.
Well, I think the best way to say it is Breonna Taylor was an angel. Unfortunately, she was taken too soon. But our link is having our house invaded by local police. It started with the battering ram, that loud blast. It startled everyone. It shook the whole house. I think everyone didn't comprehend exactly what was going on until the sunlight started to shine through the front door because they ripped the door off. Everything from that point happened so quick. To take my mother and have her on her knees and put that gun to her head, have the rest of us face down. The only thing we can do is watch my mother. And they start to tear up the entire house. You can hear the couch shred with their knives, like they just slice through everything. And we kept looking at my mom for an answer. For a second, you can almost see that she was okay with dying as long as we didn't move. She made the decision. If she had to go before us, she was okay with it.
As quickly as they disrupted is as quick as they retreated, because what happened?
The radio call. Right address, wrong street.
Wow. And Shanette, we don't usually see those tears behind her very fashionable sunglasses, and I think sometimes for good reason. But we needed to see them then and today. So what was that like to know that what happened to Breonna Taylor could have happened and did happen earlier? Thank God there was not a homicide, but happened to girls that you love in a city you lived in. And there was no explanation. There was no sorry. There was no my bad. How does that make you feel?
Horrible. It makes me feel horrible because these are traumatic experiences. The fact that Shanette tells that story and Shanita can tell it too, and all their siblings can sit there, the mama too, uh, can sit there and relive that horrific thing, and that's trauma. And there was no like you said, no sorry, no my bad, no anything. Nothing kind of resolved the trauma. It's just like, oh, all right, whatever, and they go on about it. That's so wrong.
Mm,
Because here they are as adults now with their own kids, and this trauma has gone down generations. Because now a mom, feels a certain way, they'll pass that down, and you want, I imagine the police force wants, they want respect from the community, but there was no healing for the trauma that was done in the past. So now you have this going on. The fact that they feel that they can bust into anybody's house and just do that and go, oh, and without saying my bad or sorry or anything, and just go on, then that's wrong, and that's unfair. And the fact that that can happen today, literally the same thing, and there was no change, or there was there was nothing there to fix that or prevent that or a better way of doing it, sucks. That's why Breonna Taylor's not here,
yeah.
as well. So
Wow. Well, I wanted to tell you that I just got an alert that Ricardo Caesar is joining us from Brazil. How exciting that we
wow,
do have a Freedom
hey,
Writer teacher from Sao Paulo. But we have Ricardo joining us from Brazil. So welcome.
welcome.
Uh, Also, a special shout out to Kathy Connolly and her students in Kentucky, an amazing Freedom Writer
Hey,
teacher.
hey,
So, for all of
Kathy.
you teachers that are broadcasting to your students, there's so many classes that are watching. Dara Levine in Florida, and Kathy in Kentucky, and Megan and Laura in New York. Jill and Amnon in Israel. It's very exciting. So if you are a teacher who's joined us, put yourself in the chat room. Let us know. Send us pictures of your students. If you are watching, your sweet sister Brenda Zamorano
Brenda,
just
what's
said
up?
hello. So we got ourselves a family here. We got ourselves such an incredible group of folks saying hello from all corners of the world, coming together on this Giving Tuesday as a way to say we're not just about consumerism and Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It is a time for us to reflect, a time for us to give. Vanessa K and Adelanto has her period 3 are in the house.
In the
So
house.
hello.
In the
Her last
house.
class left, her new class came in. So for all of you educators, please keep joining us throughout the day, even if you're in different time zones. We would love to give shout outs to your amazing students, because you Freedom Writer teachers are part of our family. And even if you're not a Freedom Writer teacher, you're part of the family. So welcome. So our last clip is Sweet Subu, and
Hey,
I have loved how unbelievably nurturing you are to your sister Sue Ellen. Um, and
because I
when we,
love her.
oh, and Sweet Sue was the sister wrangler when we were in the Middle East. I'll never forget it. I knew that I have a younger brother, so I know it's like when you're like wrangling family members. It's like wrangling cats. Sue Ellen took it upon herself to wrangle you, and Shanette's sister Shanita and Carlos as we darted. I remember saying to you, I left a day earlier because I had to go back to a board meeting. And I thought, what can go wrong? I've got attachés, we've got the embassy, everything should be covered. What can go wrong? And the answer is everything.
The minute you walk through that gate, Eric.
Oh, I know.
Boom.
Charlotte Fong, who is our Shari, she just said hello from your
Hey,
home state of Pennsylvania in Pittsburgh. Charlotte, we got to get our boy back home to Pittsburgh to
home of
do
the 9-3 Pittsburgh Steelers.
absolutely.
Nine
So
and three. Did we say 9-3?
I
Steelers. Nine and
Steelers.
three.
I love when we go to schools and you're always wearing your yellow and black representing said Steelers. But Charlotte, you and I have to be in cahoots and to get our sweet Narada back home. That's where he was from before he came to the LBC. But let's talk about Sweet Sue.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been watching us from the beginning, this is our fourth clip, and 3 out of 4 probably made you cry. Uh, FYI, the fourth one probably will as well. And I hope that those tears are like a baptism. I hope those tears show the strength and resiliency of all of our freedom writers and how they overcome and how sometimes we could be crying and we're like snorting, doing the ugly Kim Kardashian cry, and then laughing hysterically moments later, and our faces hurt. So I love that we can feel, and deeply so, on either end of the spectrum. Queen Angelica is here as well too. So hello,
Hey,
Queen Angelica.
Queen.
But when we sat down with Sue, Sue has so many storylines and plot twists and has written so beautifully. She's the only freedom writer, fun fact, that has a story in the original version of the Freedom Writer's Diary, the 10th anniversary edition of the Freedom Writer's Diary, and the 20th anniversary. So if you have the 20th anniversary, there's 3 Sue Ellen stories tucked away in this book. A lot of freedom writers just have 1 or 2. Sue has 3. So Sue is actually going to share her original story, which was the loss of her brother, and that was in the original Freedom Writer's Diary, the original story that she shared. Yours, obviously, is Diary 24. That was so eloquently brought to life in the feature film. But what I love to do is I love to watch this scene, and on the other side of it, talk about what it was like to be beside Sue in room 203 when she wrote this story, and what it's like to be beside her in this very office today when she is not only here every day, but Sue's kind of like our boss. You know, she kind of tells me and everyone else what to
Life.
do.
Life.
And Sue just wrote in the chat room, not bad for a dyslexic girl. Not bad at all, Sue.
Not
Not
bad at
bad at
all.
all. So let's check out my sweet Sue recounting that sad loss. Then she lost her brother when she was a teenager, you know, before she even walked into room 203, and she was already carrying that baggage and feeling that hurt. So let's check out Sue, and I'd love for you to give her some love on the other side of this clip. About the loss of your brother while you were still a teenager. I did not have you in my class at that point, and I received you as a student shortly thereafter by the recommendation of your 2 best friends, Tiffany and Megan. What was that like to see the demise of your brother and eventually the loss thereof?
Like, like when you have your your person that's next to you, your sibling. Your siblings are so unique because they experience everything you experience in the household at that time. And so, in midst of all the dysfunction and midst of the violence and midst of the homelessness, my brother was a constant. I could talk to him. He was the only one I could talk to about these things, and he was my only outlet. And I remember when he was diagnosed with his hereditary disease, um, the doctors told us that he was going to die, and it was terminal, and it was just a matter of time.
And what age was that?
He was 16, I was 14, so it was my freshman year.
So when you chose to write about the death of your brother in the Freedom Writer's Diary, was that cathartic? Did it hurt? Did it help?
Oh, it helped. Like, it was the first experience to process something that was so traumatic. And um I remember before, I couldn't talk about my brother at all. And it was like every time I would use my voice, I felt like my throat would get tighter and tighter and tighter, and it was painful. And I couldn't verbalize it, but I could write about it. I could type it out. And so it was really this wonderful gift that I was given when I was able to write my story, because, you know, no one's going to know. Luis Alpizar Jr., who he was. But I was able to memorialize him, have him continue on living on um, in this medium of writing my story. Um, Luis still lives on.
Whew. Uh, uh, right. Sue just wrote, thank you for allowing me to keep my brother's name alive. I love you, Luis. Wow. We love you, Sue. And Brenda is losing it on her end of the computer. Renee Smith is on the other end. We're all kind of weeping in our seats. Wow. Narada, you're just down the hall from Sweet Sue. And what is that like, knowing that so many of you, Sue Ellen with her brother, you with your mother, that you get to let their legacy live on, because you picked up a pen. Let their legacy live on because you sit on a screen and you talk about brothers and mothers. Let their legacy live on because you get to learn to heal and have hope. What is that like for you?
I think, like, I look at it now, I give Sue all the props in the world. And I think the last time, a couple months back, we were riding in the car, and we got to, anytime we're on the road, and we've been on the road a lot together, we get a chance to share the ups and the downs. There's been times we've been in that car, we're both boohoo crying, bad news, good news, ups, downs. That's just who we are. And I got to tell her thank you. And she was like, "What are you thanking me for?" Or whatever. I said, "You taught me how to go there when it comes to speaking." And was it? She was like, "What did you mean?" Well, the times that she would talk about her brother, and I always felt, when Sue talks, she brings you there. You're right there. However she describes it, the feeling, the mood, you're right there as she's telling the story. You can visualize what she's saying. And I always thought that was amazing of her. To me, she's my favorite speaker if I had to pick one. But
Oh, they're all going to get jealous. You can't have a favorite.
just,
But the cat's out of the bag.
everybody got their favorites, but I'm just saying, like, I've been on when you've been on the road and you get to see the magic right there, like
Absolutely.
Sue's dope. She
Yeah,
was dope.
her
But
and the cadence, ah, we you
yes,
uh,
yes, Lord, like she's amazing.
she's amazing. She's
So as much as she talked about her brother, it helped me when I lost my mom and I had to sit up there and talk about her. It was okay to cry. It was okay to share. It was okay to go there. I
absolutely.
learned that from her, and to give her her props for that. A brother from sister. It's just it's amazing. So
Mm,
that's why I love her so much. Not just for that, but her ups and downs and everything that she's been through in her life and how she's come out on top regardless of what it was. And I've just seen all when you see all versions of a person, you've seen them at their worst, and then now you get to see them at their best and how they overcome. It's like it's the most beautiful thing in the world. It really is to me.
absolutely. Ironically, I think you and her were driving to Adelanto when that happened, and Vanessa Kay, with her sweet Adelanto students, one of them actually had a question. So I'm going to answer it, but I want you to answer it as well.
Okay.
The student said, "What made you not give up on those kids?" And those kids is you and Sue and Shanette and Carlos and all the ones that we've showcased this last hour. My answer is, so how could I not? With these magical moments of you all being so real, so vulnerable, so strong, and it's contagious. I think I've gotten some of my strength from all of you. But my question for you is, you do the same thing I used to do. You go to classes, you've been to Adelanto, you've been to schools here and abroad. What has made you, Narada, not give up on those kids?
Because when you used to be those kids and you see what happens when those kids aren't given up on. You see what they've become. Just sitting here in this seat on this screen with you, you gotta get some love too. I thank you tremendously for real because you could have been like, "Oh, you badasses gotta go to OCS." You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not dealing with this today. I brought my pearls. I got on my best dress. I'm not dealing with this stuff today with these kids. But you got in there and you got your hands dirty. You rolled up them sleeves and you made the playbook yours so that we could run the plays, and respect was given, and it's amazing. So if I'm a benefit of somebody not giving up on me and we've done great things, then there's no way in hell I can look at a kid or these kids and be like, nah, man, I ain't got time for that. There's no way because I've seen what happens when you don't give up, when
Mm,
you push through, when you see the brilliance in a Carlos, you see the greatness in a Tony, a Shanita, a Shanette, a Sue. It's just I I can't. There's no way I could ever just back out. I can tell you your potential. I can from a place where I'm sitting, where we're all sitting, where we're on this screen. I can tell you the potential of what happens when you don't, and you can see it for yourself, and you can see the results, and you look around. It's there's just no way I could ever just tell somebody, nah, that kid's bad. No, I will like you. I want to roll up the sleeves and see what's going on. What's
mm,
making you tick? What's the issue? How can we fix the issue? How can we get you to control what you can control so that you are successful? Be resilient in your life and your situations because we were too. We want to pass that baton onto these kids, onto these teachers, onto whoever is willing to listen, whoever is encouraged, so that they can be the best version of themselves. Because once you're the best version of yourself, you'll be able to be the best version for these kids that need you.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to quote some of your Freedom Writer sisters who are in the chat room. Renee Morris Smith said, "We believe," because we had such an amazing examples through Miss G, which is very sweet. Thank you, Renee.
Renee, hey
And
sis.
your beautiful sister Brenda wrote, I love this. Be that person that you needed when you were young. Ah,
Amen.
how profound. Be that person that you needed when you were young. So we are just coming up to the end of our hour, and I hate to say goodbye. For some of you, we're just now saying hello. So welcome to Braun Fields.
Hey,
You
Tabron.
joined. Whenever you join, it's always the right time. So all of our lives today will be saved on our YouTube. You can go back and rewatch. If you are a teacher and you want to come back, we have we have 2 more live streams today. One will be at 1 p.m. Pacific time. The other one will be at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So all of your teachers, when you're home and you're grading papers or making dinner, please join. If you do join us and you have students this afternoon, just as we did this morning, announce your class. If your kids are big and bold enough to step forward and ask a question like Mrs. K's student did, we would love to answer them live and in real time. And what we'd love to ask of any of you, today is Giving Tuesday. Across the planet, across the world, people are giving to nonprofits who are doing good work. And the good work that the Freedom Writers do is daily. Each and every Freedom Writer has the opportunity to beam into a classroom, virtually or in person. Sometimes it might be as intimate as a class. Sometimes it might be as large as a gymnasium or a theater, which I have loved standing beside you, Narada, in a hockey arena, a professional hockey
That
arena.
was that was dope.
That was
That
really
was
dope.
really dope. That's
That
one
was
of the
really
high
dope.
marks for
I
sure.
know,
That
and
was
it was,
amazing.
and they were going to start the game the very next day, so you could still feel the ice in the air.
Oh, sweet.
It was quite cool.
Hmm.
But if you are enamored with the Freedom Writer story and using this story as a way to hold up a mirror to those that you humbly serve, please continue to lean in. I'm an English teacher, so I'm going to give you some homework assignments through action verbs. Give of your time and your talent and your treasure to causes you believe. Listen to them, listen to your gut, listen to these amazing podcasts. Love those that you serve and lead with love, as Freedom Writers have done for 30 years. Laugh hysterically so. I guess you can cry as well when you're actually in those feels, as Freedom Writers have shown unabashedly this last hour. Talk and share and allow people to have their narratives have a platform. Allow them to face their fears. Allow them to share their story and tell what needs to be told. And most importantly, I'm going to ask each and every one of you to write what needs to be written, which is your own story. Write that next chapter and envision that ending. So to all of you, oh, Laura O'Connell has a class of 30 students who wrote something about Narada's story.
Hey,
So
shout out Laura.
shout
Laura
out to
has
Laura and
been
her students.
amazing.
We got to beam into all of these classrooms. So for all of you educators, go back and rewatch. Come back at 1 o'clock. There'll be a new guest host. That'll be Tony at 1 and Melvin Logan at 5.
Tony.
We will have different podcasts on each of these live streams. So you could literally watch all day and have a different storyline and a different angle to each and every one of these amazing Freedom Writers. So thank you for giving us an hour. Thank you for believing in our cause and our mission. And please, for those of you that are inspired, when you give today, dollar for dollar, you will be matched with a very generous donation that we got from the Gary Anderson Foundation. So, Narada, I'm going to let you say goodbye to your fans. Why don't you say goodbye to your fans holding that shiny Emmy that is behind you, that is distracting me with all of its glitter and its fabulousness?
Now, I just, me and the Emmy, we would like to say, have a good day. We would like to say thank you for watching us. Thank you for your donations. Thank you for the last 30 years. Many of people could have watched a ABC special or something on TV or a movie and it went away, or read a book and never heard anything from it. But it's because of you, um, you keep this going, and we're able to save lives, and we're able to get in these classrooms and talk to these kids and these teachers and these educators and stuff. We keep fighting the good fight. So thank you so much if you've given. Thank you so much if you read a book, if you watched a documentary, if Freedom Writers has been a thing for you. So humbly we thank you, and thank you everybody that tuned in today. I can't thank you enough. And me and the Emmy, we say goodbye till our next couple Emmys. It needs a sister or a
It
brother
does
or
need a
something.
sister.
Amen to that. So
Oh, I love it. Well, we're gonna say goodbye. It's a dot dot dot. See you later. We don't really like saying goodbye in the Freedom Writer world, so continue to chat. Please come back in a few hours and join us yet again. For those of you that are donating or are using this as a way to speak to your students, thank you. We will see you soon. Bye, everyone.
bye. Come